This year, Mr Deputy President, marks the 6th anniversary of the horrific terrorist attacks on 2 mosques in Christchurch, New Zealand that took place on 15 March 2019. These attacks have had long-lasting effects on the Muslim community internationally, as recognised with the establishment of 15th of March as the International Day to Combat Islamophobia by the United Nations. This year, the International Day has fallen during the holy month of Ramadan. To coincide with the International Day, the Islamophobia Register, together with Monash University, released their 5th report on Islamophobia in Australia earlier this month. In the history of the Islamophobia Register's reporting, this year of reporting covering from January 2023 to the end of November 2024 had the highest number ever of in-person and online incidences of Islamophobia. This includes verbal and physical assaults as well as property destruction. The most common victims of Islamophobic attacks were found to be women and girls. New South Wales had the highest number of in-person incidences across Australia, with New South Wales also having the largest Muslim community in the country. Incidents have had long-term impacts on many of the victims, with testimonies including, "My children were hurt and upset," "We are traumatised and worried about being in public spaces," and "The incident occurred 1 week ago. I feel traumatised and extremely anxious. I have had panic attacks and nightmares. I have also been unable to work." The additional lines I'm seeking to add to my motion acknowledge the disturbing number of recent threats to mosques around Sydney, including the Australian Islamic House Masjid in Edmondson Park, the Imam Ali bin Abi Taleb Mosque in Lakemba, and the United Muslims of Australia Centre in Padstow. These acts must be called out strongly for what they are, that is, Islamophobic and hateful. There's no place for prejudice in New South Wales, and people have the right to go to their place of worship without fear. I note that the threats are being investigated as a matter of great urgency by the New South Wales Police, and a Western Australian teenager has been arrested in relation to the threats to the Australian Islamic House Masjid in Edmondson Park. I want to thank the Islamophobia Register for the important advocacy work they do, noting that they also offer support services to the victims of Islamophobia who come into contact with them. I also note the federal government will soon receive recommendations from the Special Envoy to Combat Islamophobia, Aftab Malik, on how it can be better addressed. I want to also acknowledge the advocacy of the Australian National Imams Council, particularly its president, Imam Shadi Asuliman, who raised the importance of recognising the International Day to Combat Islamophobia with me. The New South Wales Faith Affairs Council said it best in their statement acknowledging the International Day to Combat Islamophobia, and I quote, "In commemorating this day, we call on people of all faiths and none to respect the diversity of beliefs in our state. Each of us has a responsibility to build trust within our multicultural and multi-faith communities." The United Nations, Mr Deputy President, defines Islamophobia as a fear, prejudice and hatred of Muslims that leads to provocation, hostility and intolerance by means of threatening, harassment, abuse, incitement and intimidation of Muslims and non-Muslims, both in the online and offline world, motivated by institutional, ideological, political and religious hostility that transcends into structural and cultural racism. It targets the symbols and markers of being a Muslim. Mr Deputy President, I commend the motion to the House.